people know that. They sell 40 cars a day on the phone, right? So I don't know what they'll do tomorrow, what they'll do day after. We sold the company 2 years ago, we made a really good exit, so on and so forth. But what really worked for me was the fact that when I got into the company in 2005, 2006, I had no idea what they're going to do. And even today, all I look for is, is there something in that team where they have that jugaduness, that comfort with ambiguity, the ability to say, we'll figure it out. I keep using this phrase, a lot of our business in the startup world is about funding people who are building the bicycle as they ride it, right? So a lot of my belief is really that, in the traditional world, you might do separately, you might say, I want to build the bicycle and ride it, and often we don't have that. You build the bicycle and ride it, and while you're riding it, you turn it into a motorcycle, and then at that point you turn it into Belgadi, at that point you turn it into jet aircraft. The fact is, but you have to have the ability to keep doing these two things, constantly changing your model while you're actually running the business. Right? I want to talk about one thing and really not too much else. Two things actually which are really interesting. One is that, and these are things that are important in some way. One is that if you're doing something in the technology-linked world, and most things are in the technology-linked world today, an essential difference between companies in the 2000 and companies in the 2010s pluses is that if you see kind of a traditional, atom-based business like automobiles or ice creams or whatever, t-shirts, pants, so on and so forth. If you take the car business globally or even in India, there's Toyota at 20%, Volkswagen at 19%, GM at 17%, Ford at 16%. It's like a slight slope, and then somebody at 8%, 7%. That's how most industries are. But if you take the online world, it's really like a hockey stick. If you take any sector, search, there's Google at 75%, next is at 5%, and next is at 2%, next is at 0.1%. Auctions, there's eBay and there's nobody else. Social networking, there's Facebook, there's nobody else. Microblogging, there's Twitter, there's nobody else. Right? You take it and, e-com, general e-com, there's Amazon, there's nobody else. So essentially all I'm trying to say is that the pressure this puts on you is that if you're not number one, you're nobody. So this actually becomes a huge driving factor for us when we back a company, because I can see the value. If I have to back a company to be number one, the only way I can do it at an early stage is I can't back a number 3 company in the business. For today. So if somebody came up with the IT services company, I can't touch it because it will be number 500 in the business, no matter how great the team. I would rather try to figure out what can this business become where this guy can become a number one. How can he create a sector around it? So we proudly say that when we invest in a company, we invest in sectors that are not yet sectors. There was no used car sector before Carvalho. There was no bus ticketing sector before Red Bus. There was no, office printing sector before Printo. There was, whatever it is, you look at any of our companies, there was no, SMS search engine before Innoz or whatever it is, right? Or even what Dulali is doing and so on and so forth. So we try to back companies which have the potential to create a sector around and become number one, because we really believe in today's world, if you're not number one, it's damn difficult to be somebody. So if you guys are looking and trying to be like somebody else, please don't. If you're trying to actually copy somebody else's business model, be very careful, because it's, if it's worked before, actually I really don't care very much for it, that one, right? I'll come to another thing where it's again a very clear thing, point out here. If I look at all the companies in India that have gone public, by naturally or normally, even the venture funded and accelerated ones, Naukri.com, it took 11 years to go public. Make my trip, 11, 12 years to go public. I believe certainly in a country like India, to my knowledge, there is not a company that has ever gone public in less than 10, 12 years. If you're damn fast, right? So I know when I run Pinstorm, I tell my guys, look, we're just becoming 8 years old next month, and 2-3 years we should be out, right? The problem is when you get an investor like him or me, we don't have 11 years. We run funds which are 8 to 10 year funds. So we have to artificially try to accelerate you. It's a bit of fallacy. It's like saying, ma'am, if 2 men make love to you, can you have a baby in 4.5 months, right? But it's a little like that. There are things that I believe organically will take their own time, right? But essentially what we're trying to do is that when you become, there's a particular business model, paise kaise banayenge, that you will follow if you're not funded. But if you're funded, you are under another pressure, an investor's pressure to say, देखो भैया 7 साल में मेरे को पैसा निकालने का तुमसे 6 साल में, right? at some points it's unfair, it's artificial, whatever, but those are the things that we live under, because that's the way this ridiculous construct is. There are not too many guys out there who'll give me a 14-year fund, even though for India I should have a 14-year fund and not an 8-year fund or a 10-year fund. But we're trying to work towards that and trying to get our limited partners to allow that. So what this means is that if your investor needs to get money back in 5 to 7 years, you have to figure out, in those 5 to 7 years, you have to be number one. You have to be, in that sector. For you to go public, you have to have, whatever, depending on which broad area you're in, 100 crores revenues or 50 crores revenues or some, at least, at the very least. I'm thankful that we now have the SME exchange on BSE, where last week somebody with 1.5 crores revenues went public, and they got a 27 crore market cap. So it's a damn good thing. But mostly, we've been following this saying, can this be a 50 crore company in 5 to 7 years time? We work with that. Now, as a prelude to that, as an investor, what I say is that, and this is the second, spin on this ball. I seem to have a black tongue of some sort. I started investing in '99. In 2001, the world fell apart. Then my first fund, seed fund, one, started in 2006. In 2008, the world fell apart. Seed fund 2 was 2010, 9 to 10, and 2011, the world has fallen apart, right? So essentially, I now have enough to believe that I caused the world's downturns. Every time I start funding, 2 years from then, the world falls apart. I mean, if you believe in causality. Nevertheless, I was being facetious. The point we learn from that is, if I fund a company, 2 years from now, the world falls apart. What happens is there is no subsequent funding. There is no Series B, Series C, whatever you want to call it. Hence, what I want is, I don't want the company to die. Hence, I put another artificial pressure on the company saying, dude, in those 2 years, you have to actually break even. You have to break even. Because after that, if you don't break even, you don't raise further funding, you're screwed. The company goes. So these are two artificial pressures investors like us put, which means you have to actually, again, tweak your business model to make it work like this. These are not necessarily the pressures that you work in when you actually run your own business. So I just wanted to put this up there. I think we'll have a lot of questions and that should be a lot more fun. But I wanted to generally say, with due apologies out here, that I think business models are really, these are things in fluid transition at all times. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Mahesh. In fact, many of the points that he made will be made again for those who are attending the workshop tomorrow. With that, could I open the floor to questions? Because I think we've done a lot of talking. I think it's time to hear some questions. If you want to direct it at someone in particular, please say so. Otherwise, I will.
External to organizations or within organizational processes also?
Yes, because there's mostly 1 or 2 people in that company. So it is really external. That's the answer.
So on this model, getting influenced by the sales model. So a lot of times you have many different ways. You can sell your products or services, but that model actually really dictates what kind of business model you're going to start adapting. Any comments on that?
Certainly, I think for me, business model is paise kaise banaoge, and sales is a part of it. Paisa kaun leke aane wala, which is part of paise kaise banaoge. I mean, I don't think these are different. I mean, for example, if you've got essentially a B2B business, you know that there's a certain number of time it takes you to take a relationship, start it, make the second call, make the fifth call, close it, sign a deal, sign a contract, or get a RFP done, bid for it, bid successfully, be L1, win the RFP, collect, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So unless you're able to, figure out, okay, I know I'm going to get paid only 9 months from now, and hence, how many people do I need to put on the street to be able to make the money so that and how much money should I spend? All of this come into your planning, right? And the way when you do it from a consumer business is different. When you do it from an advertising business is different. So the time and the process taken to collect the money, which is again a part of the sales process, I think certainly influences the kind of overall business plan that you want to do. It influences when the money comes in. For me, a business plan is basically a plan for how much money you will spend before you earn more than you spend. That's kind of an investment.
Hi, I have a question from Mahesh. Do you really find, these established players, let's say Coke or maybe Hershey or whatever it is, do you really find that comfort with ambiguity?
No, I don't. They're not startups. I'm more concerned about startups, right? So, in fact, that's why they attract different people. There's, people who want to de-risk their careers will do the engineering, will do the MBA, will go join Coke, Pepsi, right? People who want to risk their careers will become members of TiE. So, I actually do want to put in a word for TiE out here. I know he did out there. I was one of the founder members of TiE Mumbai, and I was the president of TiE Mumbai. Then my partner Pradeep became the president, and now my other partner Anand has just come on the board of TiE Mumbai, as well as Mohit from Carvalho, one of my industry companies. I knew dick about business. I knew nothing. I come from a South Indian Tambram family. We have 3 Tambrams on stage out here. Murthy, Iyer, Krishnamurthy. You all know these guys know nothing about business. At that point, absolutely. I don't think anybody in my family for 500 years came. The closest they went to business was when they went to pick up the milk and curd from the corner shop. To make that shadam or whatever, right? So, who's going to teach you? Right? You learn, certainly business schools in India are not here to teach business. Business schools in India are here to create employees. They're not here to create employers. They're here to create employees for Bajaj, employees for Tata. That's why there's all these Bajaj, Tata, Birla business schools and all that. That's because they're very clear. Their job is to make sure you don't have any entrepreneurial spirit left inside you. Otherwise, why would, why would you have this ridiculous thing? You do study 4 years of computer science and 2 years of marketing at IIM to become a banker. It's like I studied running for 4 years and then swimming for 2 years and I become a pilot. That's our education system.
No, I do understand. I mean, I do respect your views, especially for the startup entrepreneurs. But my point was, does this, business models which you are trying to put in a simple term, it should be a kind of a jugaad, which I would like to just contradict.
Okay. So I'm not saying the business model is a jugaad. I believe the person running the company should have the flexibility to keep changing. He should be a jugaadu. I don't believe in doing any unethical, non-ethical business. Business should not be jugaad. The businessman or businesswoman should be somebody with, and I don't mean jugaad in a bad way. I mean jugaad in the ability to say, boss, I have to get it done, I have to change. I am not rigid because the textbook told me, Kotler told me, God told me I have to do it this way. It doesn't work that way. That's my side.
Yeah, I think it's a take on what we've heard on several people in the panel talking about, that you have to be flexible when you create your plan. I think that's a great thought. Now, when you evaluate a plan like this, do you look at a plan B or a plan C, which is supposed to be a part of the original business plan that comes to you when it comes in for funding or evaluation? Or is that something you leave it for a person to evaluate as the situations change?
I think Anil, you touched on thinking.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So we heard about the fact that you have to be flexible, right? When you get into a business, right? Have the flexibility to say that somewhere down the line you might make a change and do something slightly different or do it in a different fashion. Now, my question is, when somebody comes to you for funding, do you evaluate his business plan with the perspective that does he have a plan B or a plan C or a backup plan in terms of the original concept that he's working upon does not really work out the way that he was intending to do it, right?
No, we don't really do that. I think, as Mahesh also said, it is really the person that you evaluate and believe in, that, and knowing that things are going to change, and in many cases things are going to change really, really substantially differently. So is this the person who can see it, adapt to it,